One of the most common questions I see and get asked is what to do after achieving your CPL. Instrument rating, multi-engine, or turboprop endorsement? Well, let's have a chat about it. All that and more coming right up. So strap in and let's get into it.
Turning. Fuel. Fuel flow. Oil. A light. Secondaries.
Simbo star 9000, 1013, Kilo 25. Coordinating aileron and rudder, bank, balance, back pressure, rolling to 30 degrees. That's 30 degrees there. Left runway 29, 123, 1.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 115 of the Flight Training Australia podcast. From Tamworth to Truscott, Tennant Creek to Toowoomba, and everywhere in between. Now, this is the podcast all about flight training for flying in Australia and beyond. G'day, I'm your host, Trent Robinson. How was your weekend? Big week this week. I've been flat out, as you would have seen online in the caravan, having a great time with the guys. The last couple of weeks doing instructor training in the 210 and a few transition courses and, like I said, the caravan endorsement stuff. And I thought really good timing with that sort of topic as something comes up. And last week I answered a bunch of questions, and the one thing I did leave off deliberately was multi-engine and turboprop endorsements, instrument rating, instructor rating. What do you do after commercial training? So today I want to talk about that. It's the constant drama, what to do, and of course there is things like IREX, ATPLs, but who wants to talk about study, right? We'll leave that for later. But I have, of course, talked about those things. So there's a couple of episodes there on ATPLs and IREX and study. So go and have a listen to those after this one. But let's stick with the topic at hand for now. So it goes without saying, but sometimes we can be in such a rush to just keep moving and keep going. Get a bit of case of the FOMO and worry about missing out on something and opportunities. And look, that is going to be following you for the rest of your life in all aspects. So just take a break after your commercial. You've worked hard. Enjoy it. Go flying with some family, friends. Split the costs. Go and enjoy it. And then sort of have a bit of a think about things and don't rush into it is tip number one. All right, there is no rush, and you don't want to just go and do the wrong thing. It's like finishing high school year 12 and really having no idea. So you go and pick a course because you feel you're meant to be doing something, and then it turns out that you have absolutely zero interest in that topic at all. A lot of money spent for no good. There are a number of ways to think about it all and go about it. But yeah, just take that initial time to go flying. One thing that I am finding up here doing a lot of these transition courses in the 210 is some of you are falling victim to the system, all right? And that is that you just haven't flown by yourself. Now you go, hang on, Trent, I've got 100 hours command, like easy. What I mean is outside of a flight school environment, the flight school has a duty of care, has a responsibility. So a lot of the command time that you go and do is very chaperoned. It's very supervised, and you can't go if the cloud's a certain height and the wind's a certain strength, and if there's an inter or a tempo or whatever else, and you have to divert here and touch and go there. And you've never really just gone, I'm going to go here today and deal with whatever happens on the day. And that's what you need to get out and do. So part of breaking those chains of the flight school environment and limiting what you can and can't do is go flying by yourself. Grab some friends, don't even take anyone. Go by yourself if you want to. But go to an airport you've wanted to go to, get somewhere, go and have a picnic, stop for lunch, $100 hamburger, whatever it is, and go and enjoy it a bit and start making some decisions for yourself and exposing yourself to different locations and maybe an aircraft or whatever else. Okay. But if you can't sit still and you got to go and do something, let's have a look at the pros and cons of everything first of all, and then we'll see if we can come to a bit of a conclusion by the end of it. So the multi-engine rating kind of comes before the instrument rating, so I thought we'll talk about that one first. Pros, there's a few. Performance, right? Twice as much fun in the twin, isn't it? Multi-engine aircraft generally are going to operate with better performance characteristics. Now, not necessarily initial twin aircraft, okay, but it's going to be a higher speed, maybe a high payload. It's going to introduce you to different concepts, especially with things you would have studied in commercial, and are also very applicable in your ATPLs and IRX studies as well. So useful stuff that you are going to learn there. Obviously, the safety side of things, the redundancy, having multiple engines can enhance the safety in most cases. As we know, sometimes the other engine is there to take you to the scene of the accident. It's not going to have the performance that you're expecting, right? But bigger twins definitely do. But the initial twin, it's definitely going to give you exposure to what multi-engine training is all about, and you will potentially have to work for every foot per minute rate of climb. But that's a good thing because it's going to install the correct disciplines right in the beginning. Naturally, job requirements and eventually airline requirements, you're going to need some multi-engine rating time. It used to be 500 multi was required. That's not always the case now. I was just talking to a good friend of mine who's checking training in one of the airlines, and he just flew with someone who hasn't even got turboprop time, nothing. First time in the flight levels, all right, flying in the airlines. So times are changing, guys, and everything isn't as it once was. But having said that, there are a lot of jobs out there that do require multi-training, multi-time, and this is really where shaping your pathway and deciding what it is you want to do is quite important here. The skill enhancement, flying a multi-aircraft does require additional skills, understanding, managing asymmetric thrust and, potentially more complex systems, fuel systems, electrical systems, all that sort of stuff. So again, this is going to help you with just your overall handling and understanding of aircraft systems. And of course, the versatility, it's going to open up more opportunities for you to operate a broader range of aircraft, including larger, more advanced types. It is simply the fact that if you don't have it, you might miss out. If someone else has got the endorsement, that could be the case with any of the topics we're talking here. So again, these are all things you're going to have to weigh up. All right, what about some cons? Well, obtaining a multi-engine rating can be expensive depending on the aircraft platform that's being used, but it is a cheaper option compared to an instrument rating or a gas turbine rating. So certainly something to look at there. It is more complex, so you've got to be on your toes. You need to maintain proficiency afterwards. Twins are obviously more expensive to hire. Trying to find a twin to hire is very, very difficult. For example, up here in Darwin, there are no multi-engine aircraft now that are available for private hire. You have to have an instructor with you or own an aeroplane. So that's a bit tricky. So that limited availability is very much an issue. Other airports, not so much the case. All right. And potentially the twin endorsement may have limited application, especially to begin with. So is it something that you go and do now, or do you just head north? Really hard to tell. All right, let's look at an instrument rating. The pros. It definitely increases skill and confidence. So the instrument rating is a good 3 to 4 weeks of training. I typically take about 4 weeks, especially if it includes initial multi. And it will enhance your flying skills. It will make you more accurate, especially flying on instruments. We're looking at tolerances within 100 feet and 5 degrees. So it definitely forces you to be more accurate with your flying. That will give you more confidence and, of course, expose you, hopefully, during the training to a wider range of weather conditions, including low visibility and IMC conditions. Now, that's not always the case, but this is a factor. Now, some people will go and choose the dry season or the summer months where there's not a lot of weather around to do their instrument rating. And that's okay, but just remember what it is you're actually trying to do here. You're trying to get an approval that lets you fly in cloud and poor weather conditions, and that's going to be by yourself after the training, all right? By yourself without anyone to guide you or help you, unless you're smart enough to maybe go and do a bit of a currency flight or something like that when the weather turns, which is the best time to get up there. All right. Career advancement. Some employers, would like you to have it as it can demonstrate a high level of training and competence, but probably more so having the ability to fly at night and do the night VFR operations in the meantime. That is very useful. Some operators really like that, and there's a few of you that have contacted me asking for night ratings or trying to do an IPC just to re-enable your night abilities there. So think about that as a benefit as well. Naturally, safety. It's going to help you with better situation awareness, good decision making, reducing your risk of spatial disorientation. Accidents like that are only too common, and dealing with challenging weather conditions. Hopefully you get to do that from a VFR environment into IFR with an instructor who is experienced and knowledgeable and can safely introduce you to what is flyable and what isn't. Remember, instrument rating is not an access all areas rating. There's still times, even for me, where it's just, not going today. And that's very much based on the aircraft and the equipment that it has as well, like weather radar and icing equipment. What's another pro of the instrument rating? It can give you enhanced knowledge. Right? So you can gain a deeper understanding of navigation systems like the GNSS, of course, and use of nav aids, just doing basic nav aid intercepts and tracking, ATC procedures, communication protocols, just overall contributing to a better level of aeronautical knowledge. And these skills can be transferred, even though you're going to be flying VFR initially, which is one of the first cons. It can still raise your standard as a VFR pilot and can help put you in a position where you do stand out from the crowd. So I still think, it's definitely worthwhile considering doing. All right, cons, instrument rating, hands down, the most expensive. And I don't know, it depends on whether you're doing fair help or sort of paying for it yourself, but it can range from anywhere from 20 to 30, 40 grand. I've had some insane costs involved with instrument ratings, but fee help and all that's a whole nother conversation. But it's definitely expensive. It's potentially time consuming, both in the initial acquisition of the training, but then to remain competent and current, you'll need to spend more money and time keeping yourself up to speed. So the cheapest, easiest way to do that is in a simulator. Hire a desktop simulator. You can usually get checked out by a local school. You get put in the synthetic train operations manual or the STOM, and that will allow you to log the time for currency purposes and everything else. So those skills do not perish. Most sims don't cost that much per hour to hire privately, and definitely a great thing to do. Do that currency stuff properly though. It's not just about turning on the switch and logging an hour and putting it in your logbook. That's not going to do you any good at all. All right. Can be stressful. Can expose you to stressful conditions, flying in instrument conditions. Can be mentally taxing. So the training process, it's really something you want to have the best opportunity to see different weather elements, fly through some clouds, weather, actual decision making with the comfort of an instructor with you, so that when it comes down to you being all by yourself, you're in a good position to be able to make smart, wise decisions and reduce your overall cockpit workload and manage your stress better. All right, but the biggest con, which is the common piece of advice you're typically going to see, is the instrument rating doesn't have an immediate use post CPL for your first job employment. Now, that's probably in about 95% of the time. Where it can be used is, as I've told you before, there are companies up here with their own aircraft. Some are single engine IFR rated, and these aeroplanes, these companies can hire pilots to fly these aeroplanes, either VFR or IFR if the conditions dictate. So there are opportunities out there. They are slim, but I probably wouldn't be making the whole decision based on that, because those positions aren't always available, and they're obviously very limited as well. All right. Gas turbine engine. Now, this one comes in two forms. There's the gas turbine engine design feature, or what most would probably do is do the gas turbine engine along with an aircraft rating, such as the Caravan. And the Caravan, I think, would be arguably the most common and accessible initial turboprop aeroplane. It's well priced in the scheme of things. It's nice and big, handles like a big 182, 210 sort of size aeroplane. But again, some pros and cons. So let's have a look at those. So as far as career advancement goes, you're going to have turboprop aircraft eventually, no doubt. Right. To begin with, it kind of falls into the category of the instrument rating. It's not going to be something you're typically going to use straight away, unless you are specifically looking at probably the one field that will give you access to a turboprop aircraft early on in your career, and that is the parachute industry, I guess we call it. Majority of those aircraft are Caravans, or certainly if not the first aircraft, but the second one. So you'll start off in a 182, 206, something like that, airvan, and then move up into a Caravan afterwards. So you will need that. Now, some of those companies are set up to do the Caravan training there. Otherwise, you need to go elsewhere to try and grab it. What else? Pros. Efficiency. Really good efficiency. Again, not really a good one for you guys as far as how it's going to help you make a decision, but they are a good, safe aeroplane, very efficient, good high power to weight ratios. It will expose you to some great aircraft handling characteristics, typically faster cruise speeds than what you've been normally flying. And the fact is that single engine turbines like the Caravan are becoming far more of an option to replace outdated, older, unreliable aircraft like Chieftains and 402s and the like. Comparable speeds, carry lots of passengers, lots of weight, especially if they've got the pod underneath. And yeah, they are becoming more likely the replacement option, because there's just simply nothing else in the twin market at the moment that's being produced. And especially for the Australian market, there's been a few new multi-engine aircraft that have come through and toured, but they're just not cutting the mustard. And the 208 is looking like the aircraft of choice for a lot of operators at the moment. So there is more application for that for sure. Potentially higher altitude capability. Turbines typically perform better at high altitudes. But again, if it's a single engine aircraft, you're typically not going to be doing that unless it's a King Air or a Conquest, something like that. But again, doing the training can help put you in a position to get onto that sort of aircraft later on. And typically, as well, if you haven't already had that exposure, most of the newer turbine engine aircraft got all the modern avionics systems. So it's helping you get proficient in all that area as well to get exposure to that if you haven't already. Of course, also saying that some older Caravans are still analog aircraft. The Caravan I did my initial training on was all analog, apart from the GPS, of course. But now you're more likely to come across a Garmin 500 setup or G1000 for the majority of them. All right, some cons for gas turbine. The cost can be expensive. You're paying for a big aeroplane that's meant to be subsidized by a lot of passengers, and you're it. So you're basically taking all the costs there. The availability is trying to find somewhere to get it done. It's quite difficult. Now, a few of you have asked about turbine training since I've been doing a few posts and stuff, and my situation is that I can conduct the Caravan training, I conduct the gas turbine engine design feature training, but I do not have a training aircraft at the moment. It's a BYO company provided aircraft at the moment for me, so I can't help you out just at the moment, but that situation could possibly change. I'll let you know in time, but at this stage, it's something I can't do. So typically the East Coast seems to be the go there, where there's opportunities for you to do it. Otherwise, it's something that you just do when the opportunity presents itself. Up here at operators like Hardy's and Chardair, that'll be something that you'll do when the time comes. The company will sponsor the training. You'll typically get bonded for that. And if you don't understand bonding and all that, have a listen to the episode where I talk all about the pilot award and the legalities of bonding and how all that works, so you can be well informed. They can be very noisy on the outside, but the Caravan, especially the modern ones, the EX, like I just had my headset off and it barely made a difference. Very, very quiet and comfortable inside. Spacious, but the gas turbine engine endorsement itself is going to be tied to a particular aircraft, and that aircraft may not be the one that you're going to fly during your career. So going out and spending money on the turboprop side of things can be a bit of a gamble, I guess. But in closing, out of all the three, any of them are going to give you skills. They're all going to make you a better pilot, and they will come in handy eventually. It's potentially a bit of a sitting on the fence answer, but that is really the case. And this decision ultimately is so individual. Depending on your proposed pathway, depending on the opportunities that are nearby or around you or that you're prepared to go for and try and put yourself in a position to achieve, that ultimately is really got to be the biggest part of the answer. All right. So yes, there's pros and cons to all, but ultimately, if you decide to do one or the other, make sure that you do your research, choose a training organization that has a good reputation, has extensive experience that's going to be able to pass that on to you. So it's just not a straight out of the textbook endorsement. You want to access that person's knowledge and experience and get as much out of them as you can, which is going to make you a better pilot as when you've got this minimum experience to start with. All right. So hopefully that gives you a few little things to think about. And I wish you all the very best in your career endeavors. So that is it for this week's episode. I am available for instrument ratings, multi-engine ratings. The third one I was going to talk about, wasn't it? Was instructor ratings. Now I'm going to talk about that next week because there's a heap to talk about with instructor ratings. There's a lot of confusion out there. So I have done one on training endorsements before, but I'm going to cover it all off again. So I'll do that. But if you want to do any bookings or anything else, I'm into June just about now for instructor training and instrument training stuff. So it's probably best to start thinking ahead on that sort of thing. If you've got your IPCs coming up, guys, get in touch and let's make some bookings. They can be adjusted, modified. There's no deposits required. But if you wait a couple more months, I'm probably going to be a couple more months further down the line. And I'm going to have to start thinking about what I want to do for Christmas holidays soon. It's too far away. Can't even believe it. But here we are. All right. Have a fantastic week. Stay safe. And please keep all the comments coming through. I am absolutely loving hearing from you all. A bunch of you have messaged me saying that you've passed your instrument rating or your IPC or commercial flight test, and listening to the podcast has really helped you, and that is just fantastic. And that's exactly what I do this every week for, to help you guys with the bits of info that are missing in your day-to-day grind. So thank you again for all of that. Jump on Facebook, Instagram, Patreon, follow me, send me messages. Stay safe. Remember the golden rule. Aviate, navigate, communicate. Cheers, everyone.